The base iPad costs $329, but by the time you add an Apple Pencil, a keyboard, and a case, you're looking at over $600, and nobody tells you that before you buy. So today we're looking at 5 tablets under $300 that include what Apple charges extra for, last longer than you'd expect, and in a couple of cases, flat out embarrass the iPad on specs. Plus, there's one that almost no one on YouTube is willing to recommend, and there's a good reason for that. Before we get into the list, I've done some quick math for you. The iPad is $329. Add the Apple Pencil at $79, a keyboard at $249, and a case at $50 to $80, and the budget iPad actually lands somewhere between $460 and $650. Now compare that to a tablet that ships with a stylus, a case, and expandable storage out of the box. You're comparing a $280 complete setup to a $600 one. And once you see it that way, the iPad starts looking less like a smart choice and more like an expensive habit. Also, 4 of these 5 tablets run at 120 Hz or higher, while the iPad is stuck at 60, and you will feel that in scrolling and general speed. But a lot of apps and streaming services are still capped at 60 regardless, so the smoothness is real, but it's not the full picture. Starting things off with a tablet that costs $280 and packs a 12,000 mAh battery. That's the Xiaomi Redmi Pad 2 Pro, and that battery number isn't a typo. The iPad has roughly 28 watt-hours of capacity, which translates to about 10 hours of use. The Redmi Pad 2 Pro runs for closer to 14 to 16 hours, depending on what you're doing, and it supports 33-watt fast charging, so you aren't waiting half a day to top it off. Under the hood, you get a Snapdragon 7S Gen 4 processor, which is more than capable of handling multitasking and streaming at the same time. The display is a 12.1-inch 2.5K panel with 120 Hz adaptive refresh, so scrolling and video playback are noticeably smoother than the iPad's 60 Hz screen. And it comes with quad speakers tuned with Dolby Atmos and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is something Apple removed from the iPad years ago. You also get a micro SD slot for up to 2 TB of expandable storage, so you're not stuck paying Apple's prices for more gigabytes. What it doesn't have is the iPad's app ecosystem, and that matters if you rely on apps like Procreate or GarageBand, because those simply don't exist on Android. But if your tablet life is Netflix, YouTube, browsing, note-taking, and the occasional video call, this does all of that for $50 less than the iPad before you even factor in accessories. This is a Wi-Fi only tablet at the $280 price point. There's no SIM slot, no cellular, and no GPS on the Wi-Fi model. Xiaomi is backing this with 5 Android OS upgrades and 7 years of security updates, which puts it on par with Samsung. The real-world catch is the weight. At 600 grams, the Redmi Pad 2 Pro is noticeably heavier than the iPad's 462 grams, and you feel that difference the moment you try to hold it with one hand. It also uses USB 2.0, so transferring files to and from the tablet is slower than it should be in 2026. The Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Lite officially costs $400 now because Samsung quietly raised the price earlier this year. But it's been sitting at $299 on Amazon consistently for weeks, and that sale price is what puts it on this list. The main thing here is the S Pen, and it's included in the box. Samsung uses a technology where the pen doesn't need to be charged, which makes it lighter and more natural to write with than the Apple Pencil. That means you're getting a tablet with a stylus for $300, while Apple wants $329 for the tablet alone and another $79 for the pencil. That's a $108 difference before you've even opened a note-taking app. But the real story with Samsung is software support. Samsung is guaranteeing 7 generations of Android OS upgrades and 7 years of security updates for this tablet. That means it will still be receiving updates in 2032. The iPad will likely be supported until around 2030 or 2031, which is solid, but Samsung is now matching and arguably beating Apple on the one thing Apple was always known for. The display runs at 90 Hz, which is faster than the iPad 60Hz, but not quite the 120Hz you get from the Redmi or the Lenovo on this list. Storage is expandable up to 2TB via microSD, and you get DeX mode for a desktop-style experience when you connect a keyboard. If you want the safest Android tablet with the best long-term support story and a stylus out of the box, this is it. Just make sure you're buying at that $299 sale price because the full $400 is harder to justify. The $299 deal is the Wi-Fi model. Samsung does sell a 5G version, but that pushes the price well past $300. I do have to warn you that despite Samsung's promise of 7 years of updates, this thing does not age well. The Exynos 1380 inside is the same chip from the Galaxy A35 mid-range phone, and it's already showing performance strain in year one. For browsing and streaming, that's fine, but this chip is going to age a lot faster than the software support suggests. This is where specs get a little absurd for the money. The Lenovo Idea Tab Pro has a 12.7-inch 3K display running at 144Hz, which is the largest and sharpest screen on this entire list by a wide margin. The iPad's 10.9-inch 60Hz display looks like it belongs to a different generation when you put them side by side. It's powered by a MediaTek Dimensity 8300 with UFS 3.1 storage, which in real terms means apps launch in under a second, and you can split screen Netflix and a browser without either one stuttering. But the real party trick is the 4 JBL-tuned Dolby Atmos speakers. Most tablets in this price range have speakers that sound like they're apologizing for existing. The Lenovo sounds like it belongs in a different category entirely, which makes it the best sofa tablet on this list if you spend your evenings watching content on your couch. Lenovo also includes the Tab Pen Plus in the box, and storage is expandable via microSD. The battery sits at 10,200 mAh with 45-watt fast charging, which is faster than anything else on this list and significantly faster than the iPad's 20-watt charging. The weak spot is Lenovo's update commitment. You're looking at roughly 2 major Android upgrades and 4 years of security patches, which is noticeably shorter than Samsung's 7-year promise or Apple's track record. If you plan to keep a tablet for 5 or more years, that's worth thinking about. But if you're the type who upgrades every 2 to 3 years anyway, the Lenovo gives you more hardware per dollar than anything else at this price. The real weakness that stands out is screen brightness. At 400 nits max, the Lenovo is dimmer than the iPad, dimmer than the Redmi, and dimmer than every other tablet on this list. Indoors on the couch, it looks fantastic, but take it near a window on a bright afternoon and you're basically guessing what's on screen. And speaking of guessing, if you found value in the video so far, stop second guessing this and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe for weekly, no BS reviews of the latest gadgets that matter to you the most. So this next one is a tablet you've probably never seen in a review before, and that's exactly why it's on this list. The TCL NXTPAPER 11 Plus set costs $259.99 and comes with the tablet, a stylus, and a flip case all in one box. That's the full setup for less than the iPad by itself. But the reason this tablet is interesting isn't the processor or the RAM. It's what happens when you turn the screen on. TCL uses what they call NXTPAPER 4.0 technology, which gives the display a matte, paper-like finish that seriously cuts down on glare and lowers eye strain. If you've ever tried reading a long article or an ebook on a glossy tablet screen with a lamp behind you, you know exactly why this matters. The NXTPAPER screen looks and feels closer to an e-reader than a traditional tablet, while still being a full Android device that plays Netflix and runs every app you'd expect. The note-taking tools are surprisingly deep too, with different paper types, pen options, and a split-screen mode that actually works well for Android. For a student, a reader, or anyone who uses a tablet primarily for text and notes, this is a serious alternative to the iPad. The trade-off is performance. The processor sits well below the iPad's A16 chip, so don't expect to run heavy games or stack 5 apps at once. It's built for reading, note-taking, streaming, and general family use. And within that lane, it does something no other tablet on this list can do. It's comfortable to stare at for hours. That's a feature your eyes will thank you for. Wi-Fi only here too, with no cellular option and no SIM slot. And the update situation is bleak. TCL is only promising one major Android upgrade for this tablet. One. Awesome screen technology, true, but the software commitment is disappointing. There's also no micro SD slot, which means you're locked to the 256 gigs of internal storage with no way to expand it. And the storage uses eMMC instead of UFS, which is a slower standard that you'll feel when installing larger apps or moving files around. TCL kind of put all their effort into the display and bundled accessories and then cut corners on the internals behind it. I was really hesitant about including this next tablet on this list, simply because for me it has a very big flaw, but the hardware is insane, and that's part of why it earned the top spot. The Huawei MatePad 11.5 is 6.1mm thin and costs $260, and somehow they packed in an 11.5-inch 2.4K display at 120Hz, 12 gigs of RAM, a 10,100 mAh battery, and quad speakers for the price of a fancy dinner for two. On paper, this tablet embarrasses everything else on this list, including the iPad. So why doesn't every reviewer recommend it? Because Huawei tablets don't come with the Google Play Store or Google services. That means no Gmail app, no Google Maps, no Google Drive, and no easy access to the Play Store library you're probably used to. Huawei has its own app gallery, and in some regions it works fine, but if you're in the US, UK, or Europe and rely on Google Apps daily, that gap is a real problem. Now, there are workarounds. Some users sideload Google services or use Huawei's built-in alternatives, and if your tablet use is mainly streaming, reading, and browsing through the built-in browser, you can get by without Google. But if you need specific apps from the Play Store, this tablet becomes a lot less practical. It's here because the hardware is so far ahead of anything else at $260 that it deserves to be part of the conversation. And for anyone outside the Google ecosystem, particularly in Asia, the Middle East, or parts of Europe where Huawei's app gallery has better coverage, this might be the best deal in tablets right now. This is Wi-Fi only for every model sold outside China though. Not only is there no cellular, but you get no NFC either. Huawei has confirmed a 5-year update window, but this runs Harmony OS rather than Android. So updates are on Huawei's own schedule, and there's no public commitment page like Samsung's. Before I wrap up, there's one more tablet worth knowing about, even though it technically breaks the $300 rule. The OnePlus Pad Go 2 costs $400, which puts it $100 over the budget. But it brings a 12.1-inch QHD Plus display at 120Hz with a 10,050 mAh battery, and it runs Oxygen OS, which is one of the cleanest Android experiences you can get on a tablet right now. OnePlus also includes Open Canvas, which is a split-screen multitasking system that makes Android feel a lot more like a desktop. If your budget has a little flexibility and you want something that competes with the iPad on software experience rather than just raw specs, the OnePlus Pad Go 2 is worth stretching for. The good news is that a 5G model exists with a physical SIM slot, which is something even the more expensive OnePlus Pad 3 doesn't have. OnePlus is backing this with 3 Android upgrades and 4 years of security updates, which keeps it current through about 2029. The trade-off is that there's no fingerprint sensor, no headphone jack, and no multi-user profile support. So if you were planning to share this with the family, everyone's on the same login. If you want the biggest battery for the least money, go with the Redmi. The Samsung is the safest pick if software support and a stylus matter to you. For screen size and speakers, the Lenovo punches way above its weight. Nothing else does what the TCL does for reading and note-taking. And if you're fine working around Google, the Huawei has the best raw hardware under $300, and it's not even close. And if the iPad's app ecosystem is the thing that matters most to you, that's a completely valid reason to stick with Apple. But you should know what you're paying for and what you're paying extra for, because these 5 tablets prove that $300 goes a lot further than Apple wants you to think. If you want to see which one of these is the best tablet for students specifically, go watch this next video.